Bonjour et bienvenue to the Total Soccer Show. Je m'appelle Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by the man who just watched the World Cup final with me. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
France won.
They did.
France won the World Cup. It's over. I'm still in a little bit of shock that the World Cup is over.
Are you?
Yeah.
I think because the U.S. wasn't involved, I don't know why this is the case, but I'm sort of like, yeah, it was a really good World Cup. Like, on to the next thing. And usually there is that feeling of, like, depression. I don't know why I don't have that right now. And more so, maybe it's just because it was a really fulfilling final and a very fulfilling tournament that I think I won't have as much sadness. I'm not really sure why.
Interesting. Maybe because we worked really hard.
That could also be.
We're going to be reviewing the final on today's show.
It just occurred to me, sorry. It's because we're going on tour in a day. That's why. It's because it doesn't feel like, oh, now there's nothing else for the next couple of weeks. We've only got preseason. It's sort of like, no, we're going to be doing stuff for 2 weeks straight.
There's no void. There's no void ahead of us. But there's lots to talk about in this game. Unlike some World Cup finals, this game was not a void.
No.
It finished 4-2 to France, 6 goals, making it the most goals since 1966, which also finished 4-2. No more of these 1-0 World Cup finals for us.
You had to get the England reference in there, didn't you?
Not just because of England, more just because of the number of goals in that game, just to get an exciting World Cup final.
It's nice, right?
Yeah, because I don't know, this tournament, it seemed like it deserved a goal-filled World Cup final, or at least a drama-filled World Cup final, instead of a tense, like, sparring match.
I like that we both sort of celebrated after the final whistle went that it wasn't another 0-0, because the only 0-0 in the tournament was France-Denmark. So if it was like 0-0 in an extra time, maybe the narrative becomes France not that exciting, but in the end, France exciting.
Maybe France should be stripped of the World Cup for being involved in one of the 0-0 draws.
That's fair. I think that's justified.
All right, so here's my take. France... deserving winners, of course, but Croatia gave us a great final, really enjoyable. I think you and I agree that maybe the man who gets a lot of credit for this is not someone we expected at the start of the tournament.
No.
Didier Deschamps.
100%.
Got things right for France. That's my thesis statement, and I think you agree with it based on your tweets.
Yes, 100%. I think he was the primary reason why France were able to pull this off, and I think it's because he got the entire team to buy into not necessarily a system of play, but more so an approach to play, which was... I know this sounds corny, but it was like sacrificing individual performance for the greater good. Now, if you're killing Mbappe, that's not the case.
A repression of expression. That's what Deschamps encouraged in this team.
I think so. And the thing that I really had hammered home, especially in the knockout rounds with France, was that France weren't playing to entertain, and that's fine. If you're trying to win the World Cup, entertainment is secondary to winning. And I think you look at the way some of these players played. I think Antoine Griezmann stands out as a player who scored in the final, certainly got the penalty. But it wasn't about him taking people on and him carrying this team and being the sort of person who's going to get headlines. Same thing for Paul Pogba. He scored, but I think over the course of the tournament was much more defense-minded because that's what was requested of him. Yep,
he was just told defend that centre-right spot, which is actually a small area of space to give to just one guy.
Yeah.
But he did it, and it was really effective for how France kept going and going and going. I would argue Deschamps is like a politician. You know how some politicians think that if you just sort of really moderate your views and just kind of aim for the centre and try and get people from both parties to vote for you, it's normally wrong and you lose elections that way. Deschamps was exactly like that. He moderated what France were capable of to do something a bit more conservative and get himself elected World Cup champion.
Sure. Why not? I'm glad to know it's by election now. But I think then if you look at the way France set up in this game, it was the expected lineup. We thought it would be the kind of 4-2-3-1, the same personnel as we've seen. But the way they played that was interesting to me because in the past it's been like Matuidi certainly cheating inside at times, but like then jumping out to the left to block off anything coming down the right-hand side from the opposition. Here it felt like what they were set up to do was block off options for Rakitic and Modric because they were seen, I think, as the primary threats for Croatia and forcing Croatia wide. And it felt like France were kind of okay with crosses going into the box.
I mean, it's a classic thing now, right? That we see France defending in essentially a 4-3-3 is what it ends up looking like. And the 3 forwards and the 3 midfielders. Matuidi I would include as a midfielder at this point with Conte and Pogba. They sit central, the strikers sit central, and then the only place that Croatia have to go is the wings. When we rewatched, we noticed a lot of Modric and Rakitic almost gave up on going centrally to find the ball. They would end up coming alongside their fullbacks, drifting wide to get the ball there. And then they'd just try and get a play down the wing. And then Croatia would end up putting in some sort of cross. But it really wasn't that dangerous, right? I think it felt more dangerous watching it live than it did on the rewatch.
100%. And I think what we compared it to as we rewatched it was sort of the first 20 to 30 minutes of England-Croatia, where it felt like England had a lot of opportunities and Croatia were kind of reeling. If you go back and watch this, Croatia certainly have more opportunities in the first 30 minutes of this game, which is weird given that I think France scored 2 in that time period. But it's worth noting that a lot of Croatia's opportunities were those sort of ball over the top that Perisic either just gets to or just barely doesn't get to. But it was never really a lot of like, oh, they're all queuing up to get shots off. There's a pass, and an open take. It felt like it was much more...
Never an open take.
No, it was a lot of ball over the top or long ball, or occasionally Croatia's press, which they definitely were going for, causing problems for France.
Let's talk about that before we get into the individual goals, because I think that's how we should do this, right? Chronologically, each goal, because it tells the story of the game. Croatia's most effective weapon was not their dribbling down the wings, because France, one, invited that, and two, were ready for it. It was Croatia's press. They went after France every time France tried to play out of the back, even though they have guys like Umtiti and Pogba who are super comfortable on the ball. Croatia were just kind of wild in coming after them.
Yeah, and I think, and you could see the reaction it had within France, specifically with Hugo Lloris and N'Golo Kante, where Kante, I think a couple different times in those opening 10 to 15 minutes, would get the ball played to him a couple times from Lloris, and he would try to turn, and they were on him right away. At one point, Modric, I think, is crashing on Kante before the ball has even been played to him. They just know it's going there.
I know this moment you're talking about. Modric is crashing him from behind, and then as it comes, Mandzukic is crashing him from the front.
Yeah.
It weirdly looks half unorganized, but super scary and dangerous.
Yeah,
right?
It's
like having wild animals running at you. Like, you know, they don't really have a firm plan, but they're definitely going to tear you apart.
It's slightly unnerving, I would say. And so then I think it makes Lloris second guess that ball, so he ends up trying to kick the ball long a lot. But even just the way he... a couple different times in the first half, and then obviously Croatia's second goal, it's him being a little bit hesitant. It's him overthinking things in a way that I think he wouldn't if Croatia weren't kind of all up in his grill from the outset.
And I would even say that the press was their best opportunities. Do you remember the one where Perisic early on takes the ball off of Pavard and drives at goal? That's the most sort of central he got until obviously he scores from the free kick.
Yeah.
But free kicks are different, right? Set pieces are a different scenario.
Yes, indeed. Do you
want to get to the goals?
Sure. I would say the only other thing that I think is worth noting at this point is one pattern of play that we spotted from Croatia was using Mario Mandzukic as a source for their transitions. So when Croatia were sitting back and then looking to counter, not necessarily sitting back, but when they were forced back defensively, it felt like what they were looking for a lot of the time was a long ball to Mario Mandzukic and then him like using a directional header to either play in Rebic or play in Perisic.
That's interesting. Well, isn't that how that's how the free kick comes about for Croatia's equaliser?
That could be. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So you've jumped ahead. I'm going to take us back to the very first goal. France opened the scoring. It feels unexpected a little bit in the 17th, 18th minute with a Mario Mandzukic header.
Yep.
If you told me this game would open with a Mandzukic header off a free kick, I would not expect France to be 1-0 up.
I would agree with you on that one.
But there's a source of controversy here because it's Griezmann takes the free kick for France. It's Mandzukic sort of unfortunately heads it past Subasic. But there seems to be quite a lot of agreement that Antoine Griezmann dove to win this free kick. We don't think he did.
He definitely didn't.
Didn't.
I heard that commentary at the time, and I was questioning it at the time, and we went back and rewatched it. Okay, I guess I shouldn't say definitely, but I should say I am fairly confident that it is at worst losing his footing and then getting hit. And then, otherwise, I think it is Brozovic making contact prematurely, and it sends Griezmann down.
All right, so let's talk us through the play a little bit. Right, Perisic for Croatia wins the ball off of Mbappe in the corner. Perisic tries to play quickly through Mario Mandzukic, but doesn't quite get there. The ball is picked up. I'm not sure who picks it up. It may be Pogba or Kante.
It's Varane. It goes back to Varane.
Varane. He plays it to Antoine Griezmann, who's made himself available. Griezmann checks his shoulder, sees Marcelo Brozovic, turns, and then very soon is on the deck, right? Stu Holden, who we trust, the Fox Sports colour commentator, after watching the replay says that's definitely a dive.
Yeah.
We disagree here at Total Soccer Show Towers.
We do. And I think I understand why, because if you're in the moment when like Holden is trying to narrate what's happening while also watching the play live, and so he's then reacting to it. And I think if you rewatch it several times, as we did, you can get a better picture of what has happened. And I feel like this is a weird like Zapruder film moment, but it's Griezmann's right foot, I think, is the key to events.
Okay, why so?
So it's I think basically he's, as you said, he's turned, he plays it past Brozovic, and then I think what he's trying to do is do the sort of plant with his right foot to sell the defender and then take the ball with the outside of his left foot. Griezmann is very fast, and so he's essentially doing them at the same time. That he kind of does a bunny hop, and I think the plan is to land with the right foot and then take off with take the ball with the left foot and accelerate away.
So land on your right and spring to the left with the ball. Yeah.
And if you watch his right foot, it is either, as I said, it's the case that right foot doesn't land cleanly, and so he slips, and then there's contact, or he doesn't make clean contact with the ground because he's been run into by Brozovic.
I think it's the latter, because Brozovic comes into him from the other side at that point. The tricky thing is, though, when you slow-mo this, because Griezmann's legs both go up behind him, it looks like he's in a dive shape. You know what I'm saying?
No, it definitely does. And that was the one thing that, again, it's confusing with the replay, is that if you watch it from a certain angle and you're watching one part of his body, it's like, oh, he's leaning over, he's going for the dive. Oh, well, maybe with his left foot, he's kind of left that foot in the... if you watch different parts of the body, it tells you different things. I'm inclined to believe that he's trying to do a little bit of a move, and he gets taken out in the process.
And here's the key thing is Brozovic makes contact with Griezmann's legs as Griezmann is trying to pull a move and get away from him.
Yeah.
Right? So it just is a free kick. Even if, and I know there will be Croatia fans who might be mad about this, even if you believe that Griezmann was going down, not doing the move that you said, but was actually going down, Brozovic still makes contact and clatters into his shins. So even if Griezmann was going to simulate, Brozovic made it a foul when he clattered into him.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's a very legitimate free kick to France.
I would agree wholeheartedly. Then the other source of controversy, it seems, was the position of Paul Pogba on the free kick.
Is it, or did one person tweet at us?
No, I've seen a few people commenting. I think we had 2 people tweet, and then I've seen other people just tweeting into the void of Paul Pogba standing offside influences this play.
Okay.
And I would say I don't know if he's standing offside.
I know he's not.
If you remove his left arm, which would be dramatic, it seems like he is level with Vida's back foot. You can see the little white cleat sticking out, and to me, at the very...
the reason you remove his left arm, by the way, is arms can't be offside.
Correct.
Because you can't play the ball with them.
There we go.
Yeah.
And so I think in that moment, maybe marginally, but I think it's not obvious one way or the other. I don't think it really has that much of an impact on the proceedings.
What does have an impact on the proceedings? Why is Mario Mandzukic heading the ball past his own goalkeeper?
I think it's Blaise Matuidi.
You do?
I think that's a big part of it. I mean, obviously, I think this whole set piece is designed for Raphael Varane to get more or less an uncontested header.
Yeah, he runs across the front of everybody, right? And almost does a salmon leap and mid-air Chun-Li type turn. You know what I mean? So he's going to be redirecting a header back the other way.
Yeah.
I think it's designed to do that, but that's not what happens.
No,
he misses it.
And I think you're right, and he does miss it. But I think him making that run, if you watch it again, you'll see that run really does put Mario Mandzukic off for a second, because I think he loses track of the ball because Varane suddenly is between him, Mario Mandzukic, and the ball. So then suddenly when he's trying to make a play, it's just moved a little bit and he's reacting to it. But I would also say the reason why Varane is open in the first place is because Matuidi made that run initially and then basically kind of turns and holds up play. Not necessarily illegal, because you could argue he's trying to make a play on the ball, he's facing the ball, but he is definitely standing there as a source of obstruction to open up space for Varane.
Matuidi's stopping Mandzukic et al. From getting towards Varane as he's going for that ball, right? But it does have the thing of Matuidi is hitting Mandzukic from the front, standing in front of him. Pogba kind of dives into his back as well. So Mandzukic gets 2 bumps as he scores this own goal. I think if you're a Croatian fan and you're trying to get this goal cleared off the scoreboard, your best bet is to argue that Pogba and or Matuidi fouled Mandzukic mid-air.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's an argument to be made, but still, I think at the end of it, there's so much other stuff happening that I understand why that's never going to be called back.
But it's all okay 11 minutes later because Ivan Perisic scores a wonderful, wonderful goal to make it France 1, Croatia 1. I want to talk about this free kick.
Let's do it.
So this is one of those, the lead up to this free kick is one of those Mario Mandzukic moments that you talked about, right? It's a Mandzukic flick header back into the middle of the field for Perisic, I believe, runs onto it, and N'Golo Kante takes him down. Gets himself a yellow card.
And I think that all accurate so far. But I would say the 2 things that stand out to me in that sequence are, one, that's not a play we've seen N'Golo Kante have to make in other games this tournament, where he's basically out of position or pulled out a little bit and has to react, and so then he has to concede the professional foul.
You know why? Because France don't overcommit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of the few times when they had too many men forward, not enough men back, so N'Golo had to take a yellow for the team.
Yes. And then this was also the case that, knowing the result, like if you look at this again, you can see some of the cracks forming for Croatia, because I think in games prior to this
as they score, you can see the cracks forming?
A little bit, because this header from Mandzukic, as you said, Perisic gets on the end of it, and it ends up being a free kick. But Perisic is standing still until Mandzukic heads it into space, and it really is. I know this might sound like I don't know, sour grapes or whatever. I don't know why it would be, but it's a lucky header from Mandzukic that if he flicks it on into the space where I think he's trying to hit it, Perisic, it doesn't get to it because it's out in front and he is standing still. But it ends up going closer to midfield than more of a flick on, and then Perisic is able to get to it, then he's brought down. But if that is played into space and Perisic is already running, as we've seen him do other times in this tournament, it's a breakaway. He's in on goal, and then it's either a goal straight from that, or it's a yellow card, maybe a red card if he's taken down. And it just felt like those little moments of Croatia not being 100% reacting, 100% in on the ball as soon as it's flicked on, that's not what we've seen from them. So even that little 2% difference, I think you can start to see the problems forming.
You can't have any arguments about their free kick innovation.
No.
Because the way they score from the resulting free kick, I think, is very clever.
Okay.
So as we said, it's Perisic that ends up finishing, right? But the key to this entire free kick sequence for me is Simi Vrsaljko, the right back, being a sneaky late arriver.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's the guy that comes to the party late and gets the best seat at the table. Because as Modric is standing over this free kick, it looks like a bunch of Croatians in the box, bunch of French people marking them, right? And it's that simple. It's just lofted up in the air, see what happens. But then Vrsaljko just comes streaming down that right side to be a free option, so Modric can just chip it, lift it to the back post, and then I'm going to say Vrsaljko can sort of start a cascading sequence of chaos by heading it back across goal.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many people head this ball before it lands at the feet of Perisic.
3, and then a touch from Vida as well. Because it's, headed by Vrsaljko, headed by Mandzukic, headed by Lovren. And then the key thing for me in this one, it's an amazing goal by Perisic because he takes it with his right foot, takes it away, then hits it with the left foot back to the far post, and completely wrong foots everybody. But the key for me was the Vida touch, because it's a bunch of headers and it is a little bit of chaos. And that Vida sort of back to goal, controlled, laces back to Perisic. I think it's what it was required to slow things down and calm it down enough for Perisic to then have that really good first touch to set himself up.
I was going to give Perisic the credit as being the only guy who kept his head amidst all the chaos, because when you see everybody scrumming in the box, scrambling around in the box, he's the only one that takes some steps backwards and lines himself up at the top of the box like, all right, I know where this is eventually coming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you're saying Vida as well had a cool head and touched it back to him.
I would say that, yes.
All right.
Maybe I just like Vida a lot. Who knows?
Maybe you do. So, Croatia won, France won. The game somewhat finely balanced at this point. Seems like a good time to take an ad break on the Total Soccer Show.
Indeed.
Today's show is sponsored by Blue Apron. If you don't know about Blue Apron, you haven't been listening to enough podcasts.
That is definitely the case. Blue Apron delivers farm-fresh ingredients and step-by-step recipes to your door, which I am excited about because we don't have a kitchen in this office. So
we do not.
Now that the World Cup is over, maybe we'll be able to do some cooking again.
We can go stand in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Not that we don't live together, by the way. We live in separate houses with separate wives.
No, but we do insist on cooking Blue Apron together. That's one of our rules. Yes.
It's one of the sponsors' rules. We must meet up to cook some Blue Apron.
Always.
That's not true. What is true is when you get Blue Apron, you get a delivery in the nice big box. It's got all the ingredients in there in the exact sizes that you need. It doesn't even need a Didier Deschamps to moderate it or portion it out, because the ingredients are there and the recipe card is there. It tells you exactly what to do and exactly how long it takes.
Yeah.
Anyone could follow these instructions, even me.
It feels like the type of instructions that maybe Juan Carlos Osorio would give you, although then you would get but also there's this variation and this variation, and if this one doesn't work, then you could try this, and it might get slightly overly complicated.
So it's like if Juan Carlos Osorio just had the one plan.
Yes.
It's pre-rotaciones Juan Carlos Osorio.
Yes.
Is how the Blue Apron recipe card works.
Indeed.
Our listeners can check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free at blueapron.com/TSS. That's blueapron.com/TSS to get your first 3 meals for free. Ooh, Taylor, that means you get to say the iconic line.
Blue Apron, a better way to cook. And also, thank you to Blue Apron for sponsoring today's episode of the Total Soccer Show.
I've just realized we should have called them Le Blue Apron.
That would have been the better way.
Oh well.
Missed opportunities.
Well, I sort of got it. Because Le Bleu managed to get another goal before half-time.
Yep.
Antoine Griezmann from the penalty spot. This is the Ivan Perisic handball, which is called by video assistant referees after it was reviewed. But backing up even further, there's a really interesting tactical moment in the lead-up to this goal. So can we start all the way back with Croatia's left-back, Strinic?
Yeah, because I think they had Croatia had wanted to focus on not letting Kylian Mbappe get any sort of opportunities, any sort of breakaway opportunities. And I do think that's partially why they kept attacking down that left flank, strangely, because then you've got...
I would always have thought the opposite. And when we watched this, I wasn't convinced when you were telling me that, but I am now convinced. So I think this is interesting.
Because you would think, if Mbappe is the threat on the right-hand side, then you want to keep the ball as far away from him as possible.
Yeah, like go to the other side of the field.
Yeah, but I think what Croatia were trying to do is basically, if they sent Strinic forward, the left fullback, then Perisic would go inside, but you'd also have Rakitic shift over, you'd have the defense shift over, and there was a lot of cover down the left.
Worth noting, this is what convinced me, Vida, the left centre-back, is faster than Lovren.
Yeah.
So when he's covering in almost a left-back spot, you actually saw that matchup a couple of times. Vida could not quite keep up with Mbappe, but could mostly keep up with Mbappe, at least enough to get a slide tackle.
Yeah, well, more on that in just a second, because in this sequence, it's Croatia attacking down the right-hand side, which I really do think was rare for them in the first half. And it's a ball in, and I think Strinic just thinks, that could spill to the top of the box. It probably should have spilled to Strinic at the top of the box. So he is...
Not even spilled. It should have been passed to Strinic at the top of the box. Yeah.
And so he is far forward at this sequence, and it's the one time that basically... Croatia turned the ball over. Lloris gets it, and Lloris throws it to Mbappe, or I think hoofs it long to Mbappe right away. Mbappe had spotted Strinic getting forward, and basically just passes him off to Pavard, and then he runs forward, ball over the top, and I think Vida recognizes, I got to do something, so he tries to win the header, but instead flicks it on for a corner kick. So it's the one time Croatia got exposed.
And this is where they can see the penalty kick from that corner kick. Yeah. So, but in hindsight then, should Strinic have just realised, if there's space behind me, especially because everything's squeezed over to the right, I should never, ever go forward?
I think you could make that argument, with the exception that I believe he thinks Ivan Rakitic is covering for him, because he looks back and sees Rakitic and then he goes.
Exchange of glances.
But I think Rakitic goes back central, maybe not aware of how much space he's leaving open down that right-hand side.
And France are looking for this, right? Anytime you can hit Mbappe down the right in any amount of space, France were looking for it for obvious reasons. He's very fast, very dangerous, and very capable of turning that into something.
There you go.
So, corner kick, because Vida's been forced into this header. The corner kick is taken. It is flicked on, I believe, by Blaise Matuidi. It looks like nothing has come of it, right? And then you see all the French players appeal. Then you see the ref jog on over to take a look at the, I guess you call it the video review booth. He almost steps into a private booth where I think refs enjoy being in there to just have a moment of privacy.
Some do.
Be alone with their thoughts.
We've seen a few be like, no, I'm not doing this.
On replay, it definitely, Perisic's hand is out. The ball hits him in the arm after Matuidi flicks it on. That's a penalty kick. It feels harsh, but it's a penalty kick.
I think it's a penalty kick, and then if you want to justify it further, you could say, in this World Cup, it is a penalty kick. I think you said this at the time, that what people always say is, like, we just want consistency. If you're going to call that a penalty, it's got to be a penalty every time. And I think that's kind of what they've done in this tournament. It's just, it hasn't been a popular decision. Starting with Iran v. Portugal, there have been a few since then of that sort of, was it clear and obvious? Was it deliberate? It's still up for debate, so should it be a VAR penalty? I think the answer is, based on what they've done in this tournament so far, they're going to call that a penalty every time.
It seems like any time your arms are out away from your body, and therefore you're getting some sort of advantage by blocking where the ball would have gone, then they're going to absolutely call it a penalty kick, even though Perisic absolutely had no intention of handling that ball, right? It just kind of, he's jumping and it happens, so it feels really unfair. It feels emotionally unfair.
Agreed.
But legally, or the letter of the law, it's a penalty kick.
That's the key phrasing, and because I was just wondering to myself, like, is this the influence of my wife being in law school? That, like, by the letter of the law, that is the way it's been called. And the thing I found myself realizing is that if it hadn't been called that way, if the other instances in this tournament, the ref had said, no, it was incidental, he didn't mean for it to happen, then I would say right here, no, it was incidental, he didn't mean for it to happen. But because that's the rule that they've established, that's the way that's always going to be called.
I just feel for Perisic, though, because it wasn't too many minutes before that he'd scored that glorious equaliser, and now he's sort of done nothing wrong except jump behind Blaise Matuidi and attempt to defend a corner kick, and suddenly he's given up this penalty.
Yeah, and even, you could say even he drew the foul that led to his goal, so he was heavily involved there. But this kind of brings it back down a little bit. And then it's really well taken from Antoine Griezmann. Very calm, slots it low.
I thought maybe he had seen Subasic do his bluff. You know, Subasic, the goalkeeper, often does a thing where he leans one way, then dives the other way, right? Because it's almost like he's saying, hey, I'm leaning away from this spot. You should probably hit it there. Oh, no, I saved it. But what Griezmann does is Subasic leans one way and Griezmann slots the ball the way that he leaned.
Yep.
I thought knowing he dives the other way. Rewatching, Griezmann is just looking at the ball the whole time.
Yeah.
So unless maybe he has better vision than I do in terms of the scope of his vision, or maybe he had a quick glance at Subasic, which is still possible, or he just decided I'm hitting it in that corner and whatever happens, happens.
So then which one of those do you think it is?
I genuinely don't know right now. I hope it's that he read Subasic and sort of double bluffed him, because I think that's more dramatic and more interesting than man picks spot, puts ball in it. I want drama in the World Cup final. If I could go back and rewatch, I would love to see does Griezmann ever look up and look at Subasic's sway to one side or the other.
Gotcha.
So let's go with he read him.
Yeah, I mean, it's Antoine Griezmann. We can just say he read him. Why not?
There we go. That's why he's got all those green dots.
Sure. So 2-1 going into half. And I think maybe the instructions from Deschamps were like to calm it down. That they didn't want to get caught in a like long ball back and forth counterattack fest. That it was supposed to be France being a little bit calmer, being a little bit more poised, moving the ball around, frustrating Croatia.
Yeah, would you agree that if this game opens up and goes end to end, then Croatia have more of the advantage?
I don't know is my honest answer, because I think maybe, generally speaking, France are also looking to play on the counter. They're also looking to thrive on chaos a little bit. Maybe the only outlier here would be that France are currently ahead 2-1 and trying to see out that win, whereas Croatia are pressing and throwing everything they can forward. So maybe then if you get caught in a back and forth, that benefits Croatia.
Yeah, of course it does, right? If you're leading, it's in your interest to shut everything down, right? All right, but they try. They come out the second half. They pass the ball somewhat slowly. They try and control it. Croatia are not having it.
No.
Croatia are coming for that ball. They're coming after you.
Yeah, in some ways, I think this played into what Croatia wanted. That Croatia came out for the second half, like raring to go, and I think
can we see them like scratching their heels on the floor, right?
But I think like France almost like when you slow down, it can have that mental effect too of like, okay, we're all going to slow it down, we're just going to pass it around, everybody's going to be calm, and then when Croatia don't go according to that script, it makes you have to adjust very much on the fly. And I think France struggled for the first 10 to 15 minutes of the second half.
Here's the interesting part: we saw Nzonzi sub in and the N'Golo Kante sub out in a World Cup final.
Yep.
I did this.
Yep.
Put my hand over my mouth. I was kind of surprised because you would just think you're leading by a goal. You've got the premier defensive midfielder in the whole world in N'Golo Kante. Why would you remove him if you're trying to contain the likes of Modric, Rakitic, etc.? Rewatching this substitution, Kante out and Nzonzi in, 100% makes sense.
100%,
and my mind is blown that I'm saying that. And I think it's worth giving Deschamps respect for the bravery of that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in the moment, like if you go and look at Twitter, I think in the moment that happened, it was a lot of like, how can you do this? Oh, it's Deschamps being incompetent. Oh, he's being overly safe, blah, 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 blah. And now I think if you check it again, that was a very brave decision. And I think it was, because if you go back and look, Kante, I think, is trying to cover all of the ground, which keeps leaving opportunities for Croatia through the middle. But if you look at it statistically, N'Golo Kante 1 for 8 in terms of duels, 57% passing. Compare that to Nzonzi's 4 for 4, 93% passing. And it gives you an idea that maybe they just needed a little bit more stability and almost like stagnant stability, in that Nzonzi wasn't all over the place. He was generally holding more central and being a way to deal with any sort of direct balls over the top or from the channels. So
we rewatched, right? We saw Kante's 10 minutes at the start of the second half, and he was everywhere, but not necessarily in a good way. Is that fair to say?
I think so. Yeah, because I think he was trying to do N'Golo Kante work. He was trying to cover every single blade of grass. He was trying to pop up where nobody expected him to be to cause overloads and problems. But I think that's what
makes him so good, right? That's why he has so many interceptions, so many recoveries, all that stuff.
But I think you talked about this in the very beginning, that like Modric and Rakitic started to drop deeper to try to pick up the ball to facilitate counterattacks and possession. And I think sometimes N'Golo Kante didn't go and stayed central, but other times he would try to pounce on Luka Modric, maybe drifting a little bit, but because that was happening, it left space and it left opportunities, and you did have a couple counterattacks right through the middle from Croatia. And so I think that change by Deschamps for Nzonzi certainly makes sense in retrospect and definitely made sense at the time. I would say there was another incident, though, that really went to France's advantage.
Oh, is this about is this your heightest theory on Kante for Nzonzi?
No, it's not, actually. We can talk about that now, though, if you want to.
Yeah, so just before N'Golo Kante, not just before he subbed out, but just before they call for Nzonzi to start warming up or to come back from warming up to sub in. N'Golo Kante
That's right.
has a run around midfield and then loses a header, I believe, to Luka Modric.
I mean, basically,
not a tall guy himself.
It just goes over Kante. It's just a header over top of him that gets to Luka Modric, but it's Kante goes for it, and there's just no way he's going to win that header. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Nzonzi certainly would have.
He was called for immediately after that.
There you go.
Yeah.
But the other thing that happens is, and I guess we should do like listener discretion is advised because we have to mention the band name with the pitch invasion.
It's either a word for a cat or a rude word.
Yeah, riot.
There we go.
Yeah, basically, I guess they took responsibility for it, but you have 4 pitch invaders running around. And if you watch, like Kylian Mbappe high-fives one of them, the Croatian players are trying to drag them off the field. And I think that's because Croatia recognized, like, we have the momentum here. We're playing very well. And that totally killed a couple minutes as those individuals were dragged off.
Because I'm not sure if we underline this enough, but that press was happening, right, for Croatia. And Croatia it was still a lot of crosses in and some dribbles from diagonals coming in. But Croatia were exerting pressure on France for the first 10, 15 minutes of the second half. And then the cat riot came on the field.
And look, I do not like Vladimir Putin. I understand wanting to protest Vladimir Putin.
These people are heroes in many ways, right? Because they're brave enough to protest against Vladimir Putin, but not necessarily this World Cup final, but in general, their stance against Putin has been really brave and admirable.
Sure. But here, where they claim responsibility and had a list of demands, but had 4 people running around on a soccer field, it feels like a way to get attention and not necessarily raise awareness or have an interesting, like, I don't know what it would be, just like an interesting form of protest as opposed to what drunk people do when they're bored.
Just a banner with Putin out.
Yeah, that would have been fine.
Yeah, just a message. Get the message out there because most people, we only know who it was and why they did it because we went and looked it up, right? If you're just casually watching on TV and don't look it up afterwards, you just think some dummies ran on the field, right? And that is not how this group should be portraying themselves because what they're doing is, it's one of the few protests against Putin's reign in Russia.
And sorry for getting us off on a tangent here, but I will say I would also add it frustrates me, not just because it kind of messed up the momentum, and if you're a Croatian fan, I think it really caused problems. It's also, it lets Vladimir Putin dictate the way that movement is depicted. Because now it's, look, I'm not saying this is what I would say. I'm saying this is what I bet the line is going to be, is look at these petulant people who want to disrupt a global game and a global celebration for their own ends, and they want their own publicity. And that's how it's going to be covered.
So if you were writing Putin's press releases, that's how you do it.
Basically, because I think I'm with you. There was no overt reaction to Putin aside from they appeared to be in military or police garb, but there was at no point was that like, oh, I see what you're doing. It just felt like, oh, there's just a bunch of people running around. Only when I saw the tweet that they had claimed responsibility was that like, oh, I guess that's something. But it frustrates me because now that movement can be painted as, look, they just want to protest everything. It doesn't matter. And that's not what that is.
It's not what that is. Should we refresh our palates before we talk about the next 3 goals in this game with today's sponsor?
Let's do it.
Today's sponsor is Squarespace. We are big admirers of Squarespace. We host our website, TotalSoccerShow.com, with Squarespace. And we think if you're thinking of launching a website, maybe to protest Putin or to celebrate the soccer, but not the politics, at World Cup 2018, Squarespace would be the place to do it. Taylor Browning Rockwell, if you were going to launch a website looking back at the World Cup or commemorating the World Cup in any way, what sort of website would you put together?
I would put together a website commemorating VAR because there was a lot of negativity heading into this tournament about VAR, about how it would be used, about how it was going to ruin the tournament and slow down the game. And I think it has had, in my opinion, a very positive impact. So maybe just some of the clips of referees getting it right, and maybe past tournaments where VAR would have fixed massive injustices. You compare those two things. That's
content I would read.
There you go.
Things VAR would have caught.
There we go.
You could go back and look at that. Just maybe like a Diego Maradona goal in 1986. Maybe that would have been definitely reviewed and then probably ruled out.
Yeah.
Fair?
There we go. Yeah. That's a good Squarespace site. Do you have any?
I would maybe do one highlighting all the clever set pieces. I believe there's already a thesetpieces.com, so I'd go cleversetpieces.com.
Clever the set pieces.
The cleversetpieces.com that would show things like Croatia's equaliser where they have the late run down the outside from Vrsaljko on that free kick. Like maybe one of England's free kicks where they put a nice thing together. The various organised routine plays that teams have pulled off at this World Cup.
Yeah.
It's sort of always the story of the World Cup, right? Remember this in 2014, Germany were brilliant at it. World Cups are a great moment for checking out team set plays.
Yeah, I like it. That sounded interesting for a moment. I like it. Yes, so if anybody wants to create either of those websites or any other websites, they can check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when they're ready to launch, use the offer code TSS to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
You are also allowed to create non-soccer websites.
That's true too.
If you so desire.
If you must. If you must.
Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's show. Okay, when last we left the story of the 2018 World Cup final, it was 2-1 to France. The pitch invasion had happened. During that pitch invasion, Nzonzi gets his instructions. Yeah. And I think this is the key advantage that France get here, is Didier Deschamps gets a long time, and his assistants get a long time to talk to Nzonzi about what they want him to do. Yep. And they send him on, and what does he do, Taylor?
He wins headers.
He does win headers.
Defensive and in terms of headers that set up beautiful balls that then lead to goals.
He also
a lot of setting up for setting up.
Yeah, and I think you're setting up us talking about Paul Pogba's goal. One more thing on Nzonzi I'd like to add, though. He looms over Luka Modric.
This is true.
Maybe in a way that N'Golo Kanté didn't, not just in terms of his stature, but also because Kanté's trying to be everywhere, like we talked about. And Nzonzi was a bit more, I'm going to stand centrally, and every time the ball's coming near Modric, I'm going to go and stand on top of him.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Paul Pogba gets his World Cup goal to make it 3-1. It is, according to my notes, the 59th minute.
You got it.
It's a lovely finish at the second attempt from Paul Pogba. But here's my take. The finish is not the best thing Paul Pogba does in this goal.
I would agree.
Yeah? This is it should be famous, I think. The famous Paul Pogba slice volley pass to Kylian Mbappe goal.
Yes. I mean, because it is, his first touch is how he hits the volley, so it's just like a one-touch volley. That's pretty in of itself. But it's also because it comes from a play that looks sort of chaotic in the moment, but if you go back and watch it, it feels very intentional, that it's like a throw-in that's headed...
French head tennis.
Yeah, it really is. It's like headed forward, headed back, headed forward again into the path of Pogba, who then hits that volley.
Guess one man who's involved in that head
That'd
tennis.
Be Steven Nzonzi.
Steven Nzonzi's in there with a bullet header up the line. I think it's Griezmann then sort of does his Mandzukic impression and just flicks it back into the path of Paul Pogba. And then that sliced volley.
Yes, which doesn't look to be on at all. If you are watching it and just thinking, where is that ball going? It would maybe be going right back to the defender if it weren't for the fact that the person he's hitting it to is Kylian Mbappe, who is rather fast.
So if you can't picture this, if you haven't seen it, Pogba is basically in his own defensive third when he hits this, right? He hits it from the centre left-ish position out to the right. He hits it in front of, is it Strinic, the left back? In front of Strinic, but then going behind him for Mbappe to go and collect. But he hits it with such backspin and I don't know what the word is, but it's the correct weight, basically. It's correctly weighted so that it essentially puts Mbappe through on goal from an angle.
Yep.
It is pure Paul Pogba.
Yeah, it's a great ball. It's a Pog ball. It's 100% a great ball. The only thing I would disagree with is that I don't know if it necessarily puts Mbappe through on goal because he has to adjust a little bit and he ends up getting it out wide.
It doesn't put a regular person through on goal.
That's fair. But all I mean to say is that it's not just that then, because it's not Kylian Mbappe who scores, it's not like he blows an opportunity. It's just that then I think...
they did. Croatia kind of closed the side door.
Yeah,
right?
Strinic basically recognizes I am not going to beat Kylian Mbappe to this, so instead I'm going to take up a stronger defensive position, and I think that forces him to slow it down a little bit. But then it's really good work from, I wouldn't say Kylian Mbappe because then he tries to basically do a move, get a shot, the shot is blocked.
Yeah.
But excellent work from Antoine Griezmann to just do three quick touches, all with his left foot in sequence, to then lay the ball off for Paul Pogba to shoot.
It's very juggly.
It is.
Right? He's a juggalo. He goes outside of the left, lifts it up, then drops it down to Paul Pogba.
To quote Inigo, I do not think that word means what you think it means. But, yes, then it's Paul Pogba, shoots the volley blocked, goes back, he has a second attempt. This one he puts into the back of the net.
It's a really nice strike.
They both are. That first one was a rocket, and then the second one was still pretty well, like pacey, but well placed as well.
Yeah, more placement than power than the first one. All right, so Paul Pogba gets his World Cup goal. It really is a moment, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the moments of the 2018 World Cup. Not too long after, 6 minutes later, this game is done and dusted with a Kylian Mbappe strike.
Yes.
I love this goal as well.
Because of the disguise?
Because of the disguise, yeah. So just to give a bit of the build-up to it, It's the left back. It's Hernandez. Lucas Hernandez dribbling down the left. Mario Mandzukic is attempting to press him in a way that I think earlier in the game, when they're not 3-1 down and like slightly defeated and he's full, the gas tank is full, Mario Mandzukic maybe stops Hernandez in his tracks and wins the ball back at midfield. Instead, he gets rolled by Hernandez. Then Mandzukic tries a desperate slide tackle that isn't enough to catch Hernandez. Hernandez is able to do some step overs, like he's pressing the skill buttons on FIFA.
Well, he gets by Versalco first, too.
Yes, he does, yeah. And then he squares it to the waiting Kylian Mbappe, who fools the entire world.
Yeah, he does, because he shapes like he's going to open up and hit it with his right foot to like the far corner. I think that's where all the defenders move, Vida especially, and that opens up that
the goalkeeper, right? Yeah. Substitutions goes there too.
And it opens up that little bit of space at the near post, and Mbappe basically at the last minute closes the hips, comes across the ball, hits it with the laces, and puts it in near post. And you can tell that by like the way he finishes, that shooting foot comes across the plant foot, which doesn't really move because he's pulled his body all the way to the left as he's hitting.
All right, so I understand all the words you just said, right? I understand the technique you just described. I still don't quite understand how it's possible.
Okay.
It still feels like a magic trick. Because if all of your hips and your body is shaped towards one direction, how is it possible to so perfectly hit it in the other direction?
I mean, like, you're a world-class World Cup winner.
That is it, right? Because how is, like, if I tried this, the technique would be so horrible I might miss the ball, or I definitely wouldn't get it like low and in the bottom left corner just as I want it, right?
Well, I think the big thing is, in my opinion at least, I am not a world-class World Cup winner, so there's that. But I would say like the biggest thing is the hips. That if you've opened your hips up, it allows you to kind of like get the bend on the ball, to open it up, to put it like off to the right and then have it curve back in. Whereas if you're closing your hips, you're kind of forcing your body to aim a certain way. You're sending all your momentum that way. So the ball is obviously going to travel that way as well.
4-1 France. 4-1 France. And it would have been over completely if not for Hugo Lloris having a moment that I'm sure he's very happy will be mostly forgotten as France.
It's 100% going to be forgotten until he does this once again, and everybody will say, "Oh yeah, that happened."
So he basically just gets tackled trying to dribble past Mario Mandzukic, who we've just realised is out of gas, not pressing effectively on Lucas Hernandez, but still manages to press Hugo Lloris very, very successfully.
Mario Mandzukic seems like he has like a power bar that gradually refills as it goes. But then if he's at like 0, he can't do anything. But then suddenly it's back at green and he can run down the goalkeeper. And again, it felt like Hugo Lloris was almost of the mindset of like, don't you know the game's over? Like it's 4-2. What are you doing, man? Or 4-1. What are you doing, man?
Just let me skip around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he makes a series of bad decisions, Lloris, because I think first he takes a bad touch, then he tries to correct it by doing a move. And in doing that move, he basically takes it with the outside of his foot right into Mario Mandzukic, who just I don't know if he means to block it into the goal. He certainly means to block it and like make that tackle. Yeah. But it goes right off his foot, right in the goal.
What was Lloris thinking? Because Mandzukic was in the spot that Lloris was trying to take around. Do you know what I'm saying? He dribbled straight into him.
Well, it is worth noting that it's like Mandzukic's right foot as he's lunging with his left foot. Like he's basically doing a kind of like two-footed, a legal 2-footed tackle to go either side of Lloris. And I think Lloris just thinks, oh, he's going to go to one side, I'll cut to the other.
He goes, but Mandzukic covers both sides?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And so then he gets it with his, I think his right foot is planted, and Lloris just turns and kicks it into his right foot.
So he outflanks him.
Yep. Pretty much.
All right. That's game.
Yep.
That is game. It is 4-2 to France in the World Cup final. Is there anything we haven't talked about this game that you want to get into?
There is. And man, I don't even know if we've said his name in the course of this coverage, but Olivier Giroud does not score in this game, and I think there may be one or two people who think, oh, he didn't score, he had a bad tournament, why did they stick with him? I think it's harder to make that argument now that they've won the World Cup. But he's another one who, his movement and his mere presence, I think, causes so much stress to defenders. They're so focused on not letting him win challenges, not letting him hold up the ball the way he wants, that he really can create opportunities for other players. And I think...
Sorry, I was going to say a great example is the Mbappe goal.
Yeah.
Because as the ball is played into Mbappe, it's Giroud who is moving forward and dragging centre-backs away from Kylian Mbappe, right? Doesn't touch the ball, not involved at all. Created the space that Mbappe exploited.
Yeah. And so I equate it with Gareth Southgate and Raheem Sterling. That, I'm sure Didier Deschamps would have loved if Olivier Giroud scored, but I don't think that was what necessarily, which is weird to say of a target striker, but I don't think that's what he was necessarily there to do on the day.
I think it's okay when there are multiple other weapons around who are getting the job done.
Agreed.
Right? And it's a different team if it's not Giroud. If it's Dembele, say, it's a completely different type of player who does very different things. Yeah. Anyone else who deserves a mention? Now we're doing World Cup honours.
I don't know. Do you have any? I mean, we haven't really talked about like Rakitic or Modric in this one as much because I think they weren't as involved, didn't have the late game heroics that we've seen them have in other games in this tournament.
The one thing to underline for them is for all their technical skill on the ball that rightly gets celebrated, right? Their ability to hit a crossfield pass, their ability to strike the ball, their ability to dribble out of tight spaces. This whole tournament we've seen Modric and Rakitic get themselves out of trouble, and that's been part of how Croatia break away and start attacking moves. But maybe the most impressive thing was Croatia's best weapon in this game was their pressing, and Modric and Rakitic are key to that.
Yep.
And I think if you've ever played centre midfield, you'll know it is really hard just to run around and play centre midfield to also go and press aggressively, like really aggressively, like we talked about with Modric and Kante early on, but then also have the composure when you get the ball to still be your regular, skillful, technical self is to me like a next level thing, because normally tiredness means like slightly sloppy touches.
Yeah.
Not at all for either of these guys.
Not at all. So commiserations to Croatia, I would say, and congratulations to the only Croat who I have to assume was celebrating, Kalinic.
Oh, no.
You know that he was sitting at home like, please don't win, please don't win, please don't win.
I guess so, but they've still done better than anyone expected,
Still,
right?
If you're the one
who sent home.
If you're the one who was sent home in a huff, you definitely don't want the team that you were sent home from to win the World Championship. Yeah. Yep.
Worth noting, Modric, Golden Ball winner.
Yep.
This was announced afterwards. Luka Modric is your Golden Ball winner. That means he is officially the best player at the World Cup. I don't think anyone's gonna argue otherwise.
I'd say deservedly so.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Thibaut Courtois wins the Golden Glove. I think it's just one glove, so it's the Golden Glove, which I always think is weird because you have to wear two gloves to play in goal. I thought maybe Lloris was in with a shout.
I was about to say that. I wonder if today was like it was like 50-50. We'll err on the side of Courtois.
Do you think they were maybe just starting etching it and they had to scratch it out and put Courtois in after that Mandzukic tackle?
I hope not.
Kylian Mbappe is your best young player, which I think is just 100% accurate, right? Daniel Azzani was good, but Kylian Mbappe was much, much better.
I feel like I know where you're going with all of this. You're listing award winners.
Oh, no. Honestly, we already know, unless there was a big goal-scoring effort in this final, it was going to be Harry Kane, right? Because Lukaku didn't score in the third-place game. It would have needed, I don't know the math, but Griezmann finished with 4, I think. He needed a couple more to level Kane on goals.
Yeah. I do wonder that the Mandzukic own goal to start the scoring off of the Griezmann free kick, I am still curious if that free kick was going on target and if the FA just lobbied for like, no, it wasn't going on target. Just give it as an own goal. It's fine.
Give it to Harry Kane.
Yeah.
Give it to Harry Kane. Oh, funny thing. Did you watch the third-place game?
I did not.
You did not? All right. So you did deliberately so you didn't have to talk about it.
And I got a lot of people trying to like shade me from that decision.
I'm with those people. It's part of the World Cup.
You half watched it.
I'm just saying you haven't I watched it. You haven't watched all the World Cup if you've only seen 63 of 64 games.
Fine.
It was so I wouldn't recommend watching it because it was lacking that cutting competitive edge as it would be. But it wasn't a bad game. There was some very nice football played, and Belgium scored a couple of nice goals, and we'll leave it at that.
All right.
How about that?
That works.
All right. How about for our future, Taylor? Well, let's talk about the future. We don't have a void. We have the World Cup comedy tour.
We do.
Starting on Tuesday, July 17th in Omaha, Nebraska. Come out and see us if you're in Omaha or anywhere nearby. Tuesday night, Omaha, Nebraska. WorldCupComedyTour.com for all your ticket links. Do you know where we're going after that?
We are going to Kansas City on Wednesday night.
We will be at Kansas City, Missouri, is how I'm pronouncing it, on Wednesday night. Come out and see us there as well. There'll be apparently we'll be well represented there. The United Soccer coaches will be well represented. All right. Other things, Taylor. Before we go, you and I will be recording our special World Cup listener questions special. So if you've got a question for us about the World Cup, go to totalsoccershow.com/questions. Leave a World Cup themed question there, and we will answer it on Monday in a very special World Cup listener question show. All right, I'm checking off all the dates that we're doing. Over the horizon, Premier League kickoff. The Premier League kicks off, I believe, August 9th or 10th. It is coming fast. So if you've been with us for the World Cup, stick with us. We're going to do all the transfer rumours in the coming weeks. We're going to do huge Premier League previews, and then we'll be into the Premier League season.
We will probably have a little bit of a drop-off. Since we're going on tour, we won't be doing, say, 7 shows a week or even 6 shows a week.
But maybe 3 or 4?
Maybe 3.
Yeah, maybe 4. Yeah, so stay subscribed to the Total Soccer Show. Keep listening. Stick with us. All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk about almost the entire World Cup with me this past month.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.